On today's Locked On NBA Game Night podcast, Luka leaves early, but the Lakers leave with a win. The Wizards stun the Pistons, and the Warriors get a win over the Suns.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
Let's get it going on the Locked On NBA Game Night podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I'm RylandStiles, host of Locked On Thunder. That's David Ramil, host of Locked On Heat. And we're here taking you through the Thursday night, as always, in the association. Everything from Luka Doncic having to leave early, but the Lakers still getting a win. The Wizards pulling off a stunning upset. There's some frustration brewing in Houston as the Hornets keep on winning, and so much more. Today's show brought to you by FanDuel. It's the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. David, did you survive the NBA trade deadline and get hunkered down for these games?
Absolutely. There was a lot of movement going on, not so much here in South Florida, much to the Heat fans' chagrin, but otherwise it was an adventurous and interesting trade deadline.
It was a wild one indeed. Let's go to the Lakers, who made more quieter moves, but on the court tonight, they stole some headlines.
This is Zane Kamenetsky, co-host of the Locked On Lakers podcast. The Lakers get a 119-115 win over the Sixers in LA, despite some extremely sloppy first half play and an injury to Luka Doncic. He did not play in the second half. It was listed as left leg soreness. More details to come, but the Lakers got 35 points off the bench from Austin Reaves in his second game back from a Christmas Day calf strain. 21 points for Austin in the second half. Combine that with 10 points in the fourth quarter from LeBron James, plus some big contributions from Rui Hachimura, Jared Vanderbilt, and Maxi Kleber. Seriously, Maxi Kleber. It helped the Lakers turn a game around that they were often fighting from down double digits. For more Lakers coverage, make sure you're watching Locked On Lakers on YouTube and listening wherever you get your podcasts.
You want to make sure to check out Locked On Lakers. Not only a great show, but an interesting story here, as Real GM is also talking about Luka having an MRI tomorrow on a possible hamstring issue. But David, this was ultimately a good win for the Lakers to still persevere and get the 119-115 win over the 76ers, despite the sloppy play in the first half and despite Luka going out after starting 3 for 10 on the night. Ultimately, it was a nice win for LA. Do you have any sort of concerns about this Lakers team, though, as the injuries keep hitting them at different times? You know, LeBron started with an injury to start the year. He talked about the Reaves injury from Christmas, and now Luka might be dealing with one that keeps him out for a little bit.
Well, the injuries are a concern in as much that it doesn't allow you to build much consistency, and you're not exactly sure what to run in certain situations. And we've seen that from time to time, especially with teams that are kind of top heavy like the Los Angeles Lakers. But at the same time, they're tied for fourth in the Western Conference, and they've managed to go 7-3 over their last 10 games. So I don't think the injuries have derailed them that much. And what really matters is that all three of their big three are healthy once they get towards the postseason. So I'm not ultimately all that concerned. I just want to see whether or not they can continue to build positive habits trending towards the postseason.
I would completely agree. I think that it is all about those habits that they can try to create. And just it comes down to if they're going to have enough time to create those habits. And I think that, you get through this Luka thing, whether it is something where he can shake it off literally tomorrow, or it's something that holds him out for a little bit. But ultimately, post All-Star break, I think that this team can really take shape and round into form to whatever it's going to end up being for this Lakers club. And then for the 76ers, you saw in this game, Therese Maxey once again had a really nice one. He had 13 assists tonight, 26 points on 50% shooting, did go 1 for 9 from 3, but Edgecombe helped him out with 19 points. Joel Embiid had 35 points on 68% shooting. Are you ready to crown Joel Embiid as back? Because he's having a little bit of a resurgence here in this season, but of course, just has not played enough games to be an all-star to be qualifying for any sort of headlines.
I back. I mean, Ryland, come on, you're putting me on the spot here. Like, it just always feels so tenuous with Joel. Like, he's had a great season, and I'm just gonna take it for what it is. I'm not gonna look too far ahead. I don't think you can. I don't think anybody can, to be honest with you. And we saw what happened last season. I know he was shut down purposefully, but you wonder whether or not he's just one injury away from missing a substantial amount of time and potentially derailing what looks like a positive Sixers season.
That's completely fair. I think that you obviously just see more. It's good to just see him, though, not only playing, but playing so well whenever he does play, because there was a stretch there, or even whenever he finally got out of the court, it did not look too pretty. So at least right now, he's performing at that level when he can play. But, David, I think that one of the biggest games of the night, aside from the Luka injury in this first one, was the disappointing game in Detroit. The Pistons have a really strong opportunity here. They're sitting here best in the East. They've played great basketball to start this season, and now Shea is out through the All-Star break from OKC, and they're right on the Thunder's heels for getting that top record in the NBA overall, despite the Thunder starting 24-1 on the year, and yet they dropped this game to Washington. Let's go hear how it happened from Locked On Wizards.
I was expecting this result tonight. The Wizards win over the top seed in the Eastern Conference, Detroit Pistons, 126-117. If you would have told me that Will Riley and Sharif Cooper would combine for 38 points in the win, I'd tell you you're crazy. But that's what happened tonight. Washington once again only had 10 players available for this game. And I know a lot of this is because of the departing players in the Anthony Davis trade, which became official during this game. With the 10 players available, you saw most of the bench getting the run in this game, as that's where the Wizards are right now in the rebuild, trying to bottom out. That wasn't the result tonight. Will Riley, another excellent performance, a career-high 20 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists for Riley. The Wizards' former first-round pick is really starting to figure things out. And if you look around for this Wizards team in terms of development, I think he's a really intriguing piece that you're going to watch a lot here down the stretch. Wizards get the win. Surprising. A lot of people probably aren't too happy about it, but a nice developmental night for Will Riley.
My first takeaway from this game, David, is that Mickey Mouse March has come early for the Washington Wizards. I think that it is nice. Will Riley is a nice piece. I liked what he did inside the arc. He went 2 for 5 from downtown, but still an efficient night, 64% shooting to get to a career-high 20 points. But Sharif Cooper, like his 18-point night, 5 assists, 3 rebounds. I am not falling for Sharif Cooper, who was once an NBA draft darling and has had a bad career to this point in the NBA. I don't think that suddenly things have turned around for him. I do think that it's a good job by Washington through all the deadline chaos that they were able to hold on to Justin Champagnie, who had 14 points on 3 for 4 shooting in that starting lineup from Washington. But to me, despite the Wizards being the winners here, it was all about these Pistons, who Cade Cunningham gave you 30 points on 47% shooting. But you look around, Jalen Duren did not play well tonight, despite only playing 12 minutes. Isaiah Stewart went 1 for 3 in 28 minutes of action. It was not a banner night in Detroit, and these are games in which could really matter for them, like we mentioned, with them being on the heels of OKC for that best record in the league.
Yeah, a little surprising that the Pistons would lay an egg at home like the way they did. Duran was hurt, so you wonder whether or not or not having him out on the floor really changed the way that they were able to defend these Wizards players. But I mean, the Wizards got off to a really hot start, even when Duran was out there. So it really wasn't, I think, much of a factor. They just didn't get a lot of contribution. Sure, they were short Tobias Harris, but I don't know how much of a difference that would make. The Pistons clearly should have had enough. But you know what? Sometimes young teams can play that spoiler role. And I think that certainly was the case against with the Wizards tonight. And Detroit, maybe they'll figure it out, because obviously, as you said, they've been playing well all season long, but tonight was definitely not their night.
Yeah, and I think that in part you can allow it to say, the Pistons not only couldn't recover from Washington's strong start in this one, but the Pistons shot 27% from 3, and that's going to be very challenging. But like you said, laying an egg is the best way to describe this game. The Wizards got up 22 points in this one and went wire to wire for a win. The only competitive spurt in this one was to close the first half and to start the third quarter for Detroit. And then ultimately past there, it was just Washington keeping Detroit at an arm's distance, no matter what Detroit was able to do. And so they ultimately fall, again, 126-117 to the Wizards in a game that they're going to really want back in the future. Still, a lot more to come. We have the Magic battling the Nets, the Warriors getting a win, undefeated in the post-Jonathan Kuminga era, and so much more. But first, I want to say right now, bring your friends over at DoorDash. Go check out DoorDash today, folks, because DoorDash is incredible. The season is heating up, and DoorDash has a way to keep fans in their bag the whole way through. Whether you're watching the highlights, the tunnel fits, or your favorite player, DoorDash makes the entire season more fun because every player has their bag. And with DoorDash, fans have one too. DoorDash keeps your snacks stocked, your gear fresh, and your watch party vibes absolutely on point. There is nothing that beats nights where you're getting that pull-up text to say, you know what, let's all get together as a group and have a watch party, and DoorDash makes sure you're prepared for those moments with snacks, with cups, with phone chargers. For that one friend whose phone's always dying, you can always have them covered with DoorDash. Also, late-night tip-offs and the adrenaline rush that comes with a thrilling win, perhaps. You need a midnight snack. DoorDash is there for you as well. From tip-off to overtime, stay in your bag and order DoorDash. Get snacks, drinks, gear, whatever you need to power you through the season, delivered right to your door. DoorDash in your bag all season long. Also want to say right now, my good friends over at Quo. Go check out Quo today, folks, because every year around this time, we're thinking to ourselves, you know what? It's a new year. We're in full swing here, and there's got to be new systems. This is where you look at it and say, where can you clean up the messier parts of how you run your business, and think there's got to be a better way. And there is. Streamline your communications is one of the biggest ways you can quickly upgrade your operation. And that's why today's episode is brought to you by Quo. QUO is how it's spelled. A smarter way to run your business communications, because when your team is reachable, organized, and communicating in one piece and one place, you're not just working cleaner, you're ensuring that you're creating more opportunities to connect with customers. So go there right now. I love how simple Quo makes everything. Your whole team can call and text from one shared business number, so nothing gets missed. Everybody sees the full conversation thread, making sure everything is replied to fast and more personalized. It works right from your phone and computer, and you can even keep your existing number. And with Quo's smart AI tools, such as automating logged calls, summarizing conversations, and highlighting next steps, so no detail slips through the crack, it's no surprise why Quo is the #1 rated business phone system of G2. Trusted by more than 90,000 businesses, from solo operators to growing teams. Make this the year where no opportunity and no customer slips away. Try Quo for free, plus get 20% off your first 6 months when you go to quo.com/LockedInNBA. That's QUO.com/LockedInNBA. Quo, no missed calls, no missed customers. We're back on the Locked On NBA Game Night Podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I'm RylandStiles, host of Locked On Thunder. That's David Ramil, host of Locked On Heat, and we're taking you through the Thursday night in the association, as we always do. Let's head out to Orlando to get Philip Rossman-Reich's take on what happened against Brooklyn and Orlando Magic.
This is Philip Rossman-Reich, the host of Locked On Magic here at Kia Center, as the Orlando Magic coast to a 118-98 victory over the Brooklyn Nets, their largest win since November when they beat the Philadelphia 76ers by 41. It's been a while, and it really was the first time in a long time the Magic's defense felt like the defense that we know and expect from this team. This team has slipped into the bottom half of defensive rating this season after their loss on Tuesday to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And the Magic said, and Jeff Wellman said when he spoke to us after not doing anything at the trade deadline, that the Magic are going to get back to their basics on defense. They're going to get back and really focus on their defense. And they delivered one of their best defensive performances of the season. Yes, against the Brooklyn Nets team that has been really struggling over the last month or so. But this all comes down to one basic thing for the Magic too, and that is Jalen Suggs. He recorded his first career triple-double with 15 points, 11 rebounds, 11 assists. Nearly had that mythical 5x5 with 4 blocks and 3 steals as well. He was everywhere, providing the Magic with tons of energy. And the fact of the matter is, when this Magic team is at its best, Jalen Suggs is out there causing all the controlled chaos that he causes. He's become a much better passer. He's become a much better three-point shooter. And that has put the Magic in a better place when he is rolling. He was rolling tonight, and so were the Magic. Some momentary relief for this Magic team. Now they got to do it again on Saturday against the Utah Jazz.
Got to repeat this performance, but I do think that this was a bit of a return to form for Orlando. Like Philip said, this has not been your brother's magic. They've been a solidified defensive unit until this year, and tonight they really had it going on the defensive end of the floor. Edward Dimon was the only one who really shined tonight for Brooklyn, in my opinion, where he had 26 points, but he shot 6 for 10 from three, really changing the narrative about him that was there pre-draft. But this was another game, David, where it was wire to wire, no lead changes, no ties. And after Orlando built that 10-point cushion at the start of the second quarter, they got up by 26 at one point, and they never looked back, keeping Brooklyn down by double digits the rest of the way. I thought that this was a really impressive win for Orlando from the standpoint of, like Philip said, turning around what's been a bad defensive year and what was a beatdown against OKC earlier this week.
Yeah, it was a really solid win. Their defense was phenomenal. Mo Wagner back in the fold, and he provided a nice boost off the bench as well with 14 points. And, just to see Suggs performing as well as he did last year, I think that's really been the difference. He was going through some injury issues, but he had his best game of the season, in my opinion. And you could really tell just how much he means to that team's defense and just spearheading that group there. Again, the Nets, take it for what it is, but at the same time, you want to be able, as we said before, to continue to return to form, to build those good defensive habits. It's a really good defensive team that struggled on that end this season, but to get back to it, you wonder whether or not they've realized now that they need to kind of focus on that particular area and continue building towards that if they want to make a deep run in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're going to have to keep up this intensity. This is going to be their identity if they're going to, like you said, do this in the playoffs. Absolutely. And turn this around. They have to get back to their true identity. Let's talk about the let's start with the Atlanta Hawks getting a 121 win over the Utah Jazz. And a funny story in this one, the new Hawk, Jock Landale, hopped in his truck and drove down to this game because he wanted to play right away. And boy, did he deliver, not only getting the start tonight, but went for 26 points and 11 rebounds. We're going to hear from David Locke about how the Jazz got this loss.
In a super fun up and down game that brought the highlight zone that used to be the highlight factory here in Atlanta kind of back to life at times. The Utah Jazz and the Atlanta Hawks went back and forth, and the Atlanta Hawks and a former Jazzman Nickeil Alexander-Walker hit a fadeaway to make it 121-119. One of the briefest stints ever in Jazz history was by Jock Landale, who came over in the Jaren Jackson deal, and the Jazz redirected him to Atlanta. And I don't know if it was revenge, but he had 26 points, 11 rebounds, and 5 assists, and 4 block shots in his first start for Atlanta. He drove from Memphis overnight to get here to be able to play in the game. It was fabulous. The Jazz had solid efforts. Isaiah Collier, the day after having his number retired at Wheeler High School here in Atlanta, had a career-high 25 points. He had 7 rebounds and 11 assists for the Jazz. He played all 48 minutes. The last time this happened was Adrian Dantley in 1981. And Collier's played back-to-back games of all 48 minutes for the Jazz. Lauri Markkanen, in just 23 minutes of action, scored 18 points. Ace Bailey got up 26 shots tonight, only scored 20 points. But one of them was a monster three that tied the game with about 9 seconds left. And then Nickeil Alexander-Walker went down and made the game winner. Jalen Johnson's 22 points, 16 rebounds, and 15 assists in a triple-double effort for the All-Star for Atlanta is worth a mention as well. Jazz cannot win their second straight. They'll head to Orlando next on the road trip. Will Isaiah Collier ever see the bench for the rest of this trip?
Perhaps he won't. Perhaps he shouldn't see the bench for the rest of this trip. David mentioned that road trip that Jock Landale took. What's the most rewarding road trip you've ever taken? Because certainly a double-double in the starting 5 constitutes as a fun road trip.
No, nothing quite so adventurous. Just going to a few concerts here and there, but nothing that led to that kind of a performance there. But you know what? I kind of like the idea of Landale just driving all the way from Memphis, because you know what? At some point, you're just exhausted. You're just so focused. You don't get into your typical routine. It changes things up a little bit, and you just play like almost like the purest form of basketball. And that's kind of what I saw from him today. Like he was just really locked in throughout the entire proceeding. Like he just didn't have time to settle in. He was kind of just wired on whatever it was that he was drinking on the way down. I don't know how many cups of coffee he must have had on the way from Memphis there, but clearly it worked. So you know what? Keep writing it for as long as you can. I'm not optimistic about the Jazz Jazz's chances of continuing to find their winning ways in Orlando, however, because as we talked about, looks like the Magic has finally gotten something going. Utah has something, a tough challenge up ahead of them for sure.
I want to ask you what you were drinking at those concerts, but maybe the Jazz will see Isaiah Collier get slowed down by this new defense here from Orlando, the newfound identity. Coming up, though, we still got to talk about these Warriors who got a win today over the Suns, and we have a frustration point in Houston, as well as the Spurs taking care of the second night of back-to-back against Dallas. But first, I want to say right now, bring your friends over at FanDuel. Go check out FanDuel today because they are awesome. There's the last call for football season right now on FanDuel. One final Sunday, one last kickoff. The final chance to get in on the action before the NFL season officially comes to a close. This is Super Bowl 60, and FanDuel is making sure you're right in the middle of it when the special offer is here just in time for you for the biggest game of the year. Whether you're backing the favorite, riding out the underdog, or building the one last same game parlay, this is the game everyone's been waiting for. This is where predictions turn into plays, where stats become storylines, and every snap feels bigger. It's the perfect way to cap off the season and make the Super Bowl even more exciting from kickoff to the final whistle. If you are a new customer, bet just $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. Make it count because after the Super Bowl, the season is over. Last call for football on FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 60. Visit FanDuel.com to get started today. We're back on the Locked On NBA Game Night Podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I'm RylandStiles, host of Locked On Thunder. That's David Ramil, host of Locked On Heat. And David, this Buzz City crew in Charlotte, the Hornets keep on winning 8 in a row now as they win in Houston, 109-99 in a game in which the Hornets saw Cunningham have 24 points. Miles Bridges had 18. LaMelo Ball chipped in 20. It was an overall team effort in this one, and you can argue that the Hornets didn't even play their best basketball in this one, and yet they still got this win over the Houston Rockets by one time getting up by 22 points, just 2 lead changes, all of which happened before midway through the second quarter, and 6 ties in the same span there. And then from there, it was Charlotte taking care of the Houston Rockets, who shot just 34% from 3 and had 18 turnovers against these Hornets, and had the loss on the rebounding battle 46-40, which is starting to see from Houston, who that's been their bread and butter, of course, dealing with the multitude of injuries, including Steven Adams, who changes the look of how Houston can play. David, the Hornets are playing great basketball right now, and so this is not like losing to your brother's Hornets, but there is still some frustration that comes with this game for Houston, including Alperen Sengun, who on offense only had 7 points on 11 shot attempts, 9 rebounds, 5 assists, and he had 4 fouls in this one. But after the game, head coach Ime Udoka was asked about Alperen Sengun and how he was targeted in the pick and roll, and Ime said straight up, it's been that way since I've gotten here. What do you think about Sengun's game? Well, what do you think about his defense, if it can be masked, or if this is just a rightful frustration point for Udoka?
No, I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I think it was he's not a solid defender, and yet at the same time, it's not always so glaring as it was today, and as it was has been throughout several different points throughout the season. So I think as you continue to have these players in and out due to injury, it kind of changes again the chemistry, and your rotations aren't quite as sharp, and you can be exposed a little bit when opposing teams run pick and roll, especially teams that have been as proficient in that as the Hornets have been. You know, the Hornets are in a roll, so it's kind of like two teams going in the opposite direction. The Rockets kind of trying to find themselves. They gave up a lot of easy baskets there. They struggled with the ball. They were kind of sloppy, as you pointed out, their turnovers as well. But the Hornets did a really good job of executing offensively and forcing turnovers, playing some really solid defense as well. So it's an interesting contrast of two teams kind of going in the opposite direction, and you wonder whether or not the Rockets can figure it out. Honestly, I get the feeling they can't. It just doesn't feel like it's their season, and maybe they just need more time to figure it out, or again, maybe have these players come back to the injury, maybe a slight roster shakeup. I'm not sure exactly what the answer is, because I think the Rockets have been disappointing by and large throughout the season, even though they're still holding on to a top seed in the Western Conference.
Yeah, and Rafael Stone, the top decision maker in Houston, talked about that today before this game, of it just feeling like it's not their year due to the injuries and due to what's gone wrong for them. And I'm willing to, even though they are a home court advantage seed in the Western Conference, I'm willing to take them completely out of that contender tier in the West. I think that teams below them, like even Minnesota, deserve that recognition a lot more than Houston does. It just does not look like it's going to go well or go Houston's way this year. But for Charlotte, I'm going to put you on the spot again because they've surged to the 10th seed in this play-in tournament, and the Bulls have finally picked the selling direction. They've lost 3 straight, and the deadline was fast and furious for them, moving guys out. Everyone must go in Chicago. And then Milwaukee, we know the drama surrounding Giannis, and then the rest of the veteran contention are not really in contention. So this is an easier one. Are the Hornets going to hold on to at least a play-in tournament spot?
Yes. Yes, they are. I got some flack last week. I'm making a total about face now. I think the Hornets have continued to impress. They've got some real base bones there. I think it's been a solid team. I'm not sure how ultimately good they'll be. I wouldn't obviously put them in contending status, but are they a dangerous team? Yes. Can they even get out of the play-in tournament? Also a yes. I think there's high expectations and well-deserved in Charlotte.
Well, if we both agree on that, I'm going to consider them our Hornets for the rest of the season, and they keep on winning. Let's go out to Locked On Warriors to hear about how the Warriors beat the Suns.
Just when you thought the Golden State Warriors were dead, they finished the game on a 24-5 run to stun the Phoenix Suns 101-97. No Steph Curry. It was the skeleton crew. And, man, we just got big play after big play down the stretch. Pat Spencer kind of kept the Warriors in it with 20 points, most of them early. Al Horford, some big plays. DeAnthony Melton, big shots late. Moses Moody, big defensive plays. Guy Santos finishing in transition. And DeAnthony Melton, the guy whose hands they put the ball into with seconds left, who tied the game. Moses Moody had the big defensive play. And from there, it was Melton who put the icing on top of the cake and the cherry on top as well, as the Warriors stun the Phoenix Suns. Final run was 25-7. The Warriors get a huge road win. We got this, and we got the Kristaps Porzingis talk coming up on Locked On Dubs.
Go check that out to see how Porzingis could help Golden State, as finally we have the resolution to the Jonathan Kuminga saga. But he's right. They did stun these Suns even without Devin Booker and without Jalen Green. They got 21 points from Grayson Allen. They got 24 points from Dillon Brooks. So they look like they had done enough to get the win until that late surge by Golden State. So I would consider this a very impressive win for the Warriors, considering no Steph Curry and their late rally here to come back from down 14 points in the fourth quarter and get this win.
This shot selection, I'm like looking at the stat line now. 76 total field goal attempts, 55 of them from 3-point range. That is a ridiculous ratio, especially with no Curry out on the floor. Unbelievable stuff there. Some real incredible shooting from the Golden State Warriors, and they did just enough there. And look, that was a heck of a comeback late in the fourth quarter there. They were amazing towards the end there, and Phoenix kind of just fell apart at all the wrong times there. They were really sloppy with the ball, just careless on a few possessions there. And then at the end, when they had a chance to tie or take the lead, Dillon Brooks just kind of falls all over himself, throws up all over himself, and just puts up a prayer there. You couldn't really get a good shot going. And you know what? Golden State absolutely stole the game here, and then well-deserved.
Stop me if you've heard this before. Cooper Flagg once again had an elite game, 32 points in this one, in a well-rounded, awesome game for the rookie. But ultimately, it was the Spurs on the second night of a back-to-back who takes care of Dallas and keeps on winning. Let's go to Locked On Mavs and then Locked On Spurs to get the recap from both sides on this one.
Oh, this felt like a game if the Dallas Mavericks just had one more guy, just one more healthy guy to give them like 10 points. They could have beaten this Spurs team, but Cooper Flagg, absolutely incredible. Again, 32 points, 6 boards, 4 assists, 2 steals, 3 blocks, was doing it all. And the thing that stood out to me about Cooper Flagg was the difference between the first time he played the Spurs, which was his very first regular season game in the NBA against Wembanyama, to this game. The development he's had has been incredible. The comfortability, the ability to get to his spot, to stop, to pull up, to recognize when he's got somebody on his hip. There was a play where he got Castle on his hip at half court, went all the way to the rim, huge dunk, massive dunk. That was a big momentum shift for the Mavericks. Flagg even hit 2 threes in this game, which is something we've been watching, which is absolutely huge for his development. And only 2 free throws. # ethical hoops. Najee Marshall. Bet on Najee Marshall. The Mavs are going to. They didn't trade him at the trade deadline. Matt Riccardi, the Mavs co-interim GM, said that they love the fit with Najee Marshall and Max Christie with Cooper Flagg, and that he's the type of player that the Mavs want to build around, the type of player that the Mavs want to be about. And that's what Najee Marshall is. He's a guy that just gets downhill, gets to his spots, was incredible with his floater again tonight, 32 points, but also ties his career high with 4 made threes. He was absolutely dealing from the three-point line. That's the thing that's been plaguing him his whole career. If that can come around, that's something that would be absolutely massive for him. Mavs lose the game. Spurs, their depth was just way too much. They had 7 players in double digits, over 40 points off the bench. The Mavs just couldn't handle it, but they put up a really good fight, had it 1-point game with like 4 minutes to go. Same story we've heard a lot. Mavs just couldn't close.
Mavs could not close, but the Spurs could. Let's hear Jeff Garcia of Locked On Spurs.
Jeff Garcia here, Locked On Spurs. Here to give you a quick react to the Spurs road win over the Dallas Maverick, 135-123. All right, so what went right for the Spurs? Well, rebounding. Going into tonight's game, the Spurs were down Luke Cornett. And, battle of the boards might have been an issue, but not tonight. There was a lot of gang rebounding. The Spurs actually out-rebounded Dallas 50-41 for the game, with Victor Wembanyama leading the way with 11 rebounds. You had Steph Castle chipping in with 7 rebounds. Keldon Johnson, 6. Devin Vassell with 7 rebounds. Another thing to take away for the Spurs is, yes, Victor was Victor. He had himself a night, having a double-double with 29 and 11. Great, expected by this point now. But it was the fact that the Spurs had multiple players in double figures scoring outside of Wemby. 18 from Steph Castle, 19 from Harrison Barnes, who, by the way, finally looking like he's shaking out of his month-long shooting slump. 5 of 7 3-pointers on the night. Then you got Keldon Johnson with 12 points, De'Aaron Fox with 17, Devin Vassell with 12, Julian Champagnie with 14. That's the type of balance scoring this team needed. In case you didn't know, heading into the game versus Dallas, over the last 3 games, the Spurs were in the bottom 10 in offensive rating. So this is hopefully a good sign that the Spurs offensively getting better. And finally, the key for the Spurs winning is simply closing out the game in style. They went on a 15-4 run on the Mavericks late in the 4th period, basically from the 3-minute 52 point to the end of the game. You had Wemby scoring 5 points, 5 for 6 from the free throw line, while holding Dallas to 1 of 8 field goals in that span. So the Spurs definitely put the nail in the coffin against a team on paper they should win. If there's a downside to the game, there's one, again, letting double-figure leads slip by. I get it. It's a game of runs. But this team on paper, much better than Dallas, and they should have had no problem putting them away early. They did. They waited till the final minutes of the game to put the team away. But hey, a win's a win. Spurs now go 2-0 versus Dallas this regular season, 35-16.
2-0 against Dallas in this regular season, and they found a way to win. And that's the most important part, David, because, like we mentioned earlier with Detroit, these teams can capitalize on OKC. They're going to really struggle to win without SGA. And the Spurs now, after beating the Thunder and beating the Mavericks in back-to-back games, 4.5 out of that number 1 seed in the West, and they can really shrink that gap to being non-existent by the time the All-Star break rolls around if they continue to do their job.
Yeah, absolutely. They looked phenomenal. Their depth continues to be a nice pop for them. And, if Harrison Barnes continues to round up and come back, as Jeff said, he'll be a huge factor for them. And, of course, Wembanyama being Wemby. So, you know what? I like their chances. And they're playing great basketball. They've been really solid all season long. And they're definitely going to be a continued dangerous team throughout the rest of the year.
And one last question for you to end the show. The Spurs did not make a move at the trade deadline, and I love that decision by San Antonio. I think that you need to ride this out, and you're in no sort of rush to change anything about this team that's really cooking right now in this season with Wemby, and you can have these conversations in the summertime of what do you think could improve this roster. But I want to see this team play in the playoffs because I think that they can go far in this postseason. Do you agree with that assessment, or would you look at this and say, hey, you're here now, you're the 2 seed, you got to do something to help your roster?
No, I don't think they have any glaring weak spots. And so because of that, you want to see how these players perform, because this is really where you're going to be tested, is what their performance is like during the playoffs. And then at that point, that's when you have the time to assess, okay, this is a player that works, this is a player that fits, this is a player that continues to develop, or this is somebody that we can continue to build on and count on moving forward. So I think they made the right call. You don't want to disrupt chemistry, especially for a young team like this. That could be disastrous. So instead, they just kind of held the fort, and I think they did a great I think that was the right choice, and I think we'll see even further dividends paying off in the playoffs, and then they can build and add to that in the postseason when you should make those kinds of moves.
I completely agree with you there. And that was another Thursday recap of the NBA. We do this every single night on Locked On NBA Game Night. You have David and I every Thursday. I hope that you tune in again tomorrow and next Thursday. For David Ramil, I'm RylandStiles. Until next time, folks, be good and be good to one another.